I want to just welcome all of you to this event. This is the second of a three-part series aimed at celebrating the 20-year history of the Wise Giving Alliance. We said we would do one event focused on the past, which we did very well last time, mainly because of the great work of Bennett Weiner and George Penick, who also helped us reconnect with our roots. We will this time be focused on what we currently do. And so you'll hear from various staff members who have the opportunity to talk about the work they're presently engaged with and share with you some of the excitement that they're experiencing around that. And then next time when we get together, we will be talking about the future. And that will be an opportunity for you to really help us think about some of the opportunities that you see based on what you know of our past, what you've now seen about our present, and you can envision with us where we might go from here. So to get us started, I want to turn the dais over to our chair, Shar Mollison, and our vice chair, Bonnie Ben-Hayen, who will sort of MC the rest of the program.
Very good. Thank you, Art. Good afternoon. As Art mentioned, I'm Shar Mollison, and I'm the current chair of the BBB Wise Giving Alliance Board of Directors. And with me is Bonnie Ben-Hayen, who is our current vice chair. So we will begin this afternoon with a brief overview of the mission of the Wise Giving Alliance and how it has evolved. And then, as Art mentioned, we'll introduce a few of our staff members who will describe some of the program initiatives that they are overseeing.
Well, this is a bit of a friends and family group, so I think you all know what the mission is, but I still think as we gather to celebrate and reflect, it makes sense to say it out loud, and so I'm going to. The BBB Wise Giving Alliance's mission is to help donors make informed decisions and strengthen trust in charities. The main program that we operate is to further our missions. The main program that we operate to further our mission is our charity evaluation program. As we continue to grow the number of accredited charities in our charity evaluation program, we also continue to grow the number of programs, resources, and tools that we offer to donors and charities.
Now, we're always looking for unique and helpful ways to further trust between donors and charitable organizations. And so in addition to our charity evaluations, we now offer a safe giving platform, insights on the philanthropic sector, resources for wise giving, tools for collaboration, and networking opportunities. And each of these programs is spearheaded by a Wise Giving Alliance staff member. And I would just like to mention that the role as program leader is only one of the many hats that they wear for us.
The Wise Giving Board of Directors also helps steer WGA's program activities and contribute to the organization's achievements. Board members represent many different types of expertise. We have executives from 2 major local BBBs and experts in technology, video production, financial management, nonprofit law, corporate social responsibility programs, the world of large associations, the world of smaller and local nonprofits, marketing, and human resource management.
Needless to say, the past couple of years have been relentlessly challenging for all of us, personally and professionally, including those of us with the Wise Giving Alliance. So I would just like to acknowledge that to this board of directors, the Wise Giving Alliance staff is a remarkable group of people. They have risen above extreme and difficult circumstances throughout the shutdown, economic volatility, and uncertain philanthropic and political landscape. They remained focused on the mission. And they did not miss a beat, and they excelled and exceeded all expectations. We're very proud to be associated with them.
We absolutely are. I second everything that Shar said. They are truly remarkable. And now, in some ways, the fun part of the program. We'll turn the conversation over to our program leaders and allow them the opportunity to share about each of the programs. To start us off, we have the always amazing Sean Van Gorder, Director of Charity Evaluation. Sean? Well, there we are.
Sorry about that. I've been muted this whole time. But thank you for that introduction. And I wanted to go over sort of my specialty on the staff here, which is the actual charity evaluation program and the primary purpose and the work that we do. If you could go to the next slide. So as Bonnie mentioned, the goal of the organization is to help donors make informed giving decisions, and or one of the goals. And the way that we do that is by providing the results of the evaluations that we produce and summary information about the charities on our website for free for donors to access. They can come to the website, look up whether or not an organization is accredited. If an organization is not accredited, then we fully explain what the issues are, and the donor can then use that information to decide whether it's an organization they'd like to give to. For us, really, that evaluation process is the key. It's really what sets us apart from our competitors. We have very thorough standards that cover all aspects of charity operations, from governance to finance to impact and effectiveness assessments to the content of appeals. We're really looking at all aspects of an organization when we evaluate them. To me, I think one of the key things, the most important things about what we do is maintain open and two-way communication with the charities. It's something that really does separate us from our competitors in that we rely on the charities to work with us. They provide us with information that we use to evaluate. We don't generally seek out information without the charity's permission to evaluate and report on them. And in addition to that, most organizations do not meet our standards immediately right away. There's a lot of communication that happens in the production of a charity report where we're actually working with the charity to improve their practices so that they come into compliance with the standards and become an accredited organization. We also have very knowledgeable staff that are producing these evaluations. There's a lot that goes into the training. I know Lindsay is our most recent addition to the charity analyst staff, and she can attest, I'm sure, to the amount of training and experiences that you get in evaluating so many different organizations. I tell folks, you may not feel like an expert in the nonprofit sector, but in reality, as an analyst here, you're exposed to more about charity finances and practices than most executive directors are, because they generally focus on their organization, their niche, whereas we're looking at all types of nonprofit organizations and their finances. And finally, we are objective and consistent in applying our standards. We don't comment on the worthiness of any particular charity program or mission. We're only really looking at the charity standards themselves and whether the organization meets them. And so, in addition to helping that main goal of helping donors make informed giving decisions, one of the other things that we feel we do by applying these standards is improving the sector overall by improving the practices of the largest national charities as well as the local ones. We do some local work here, and at the BBB, certainly, they do charity reports on organizations in their service areas. We get the next one. There we go. So where are we today as far as the charity review program goes? After the formation of the BBB Wise Giving Alliance a few years later in 2003, 2004, we implemented what we called the Online Charity Review, or OCR system, which was really designed to assist us in the evaluation process, because prior to that, we were getting a lot of physical copies of things. We were getting policies and forms and application forms and boxes of information from charities. And that was really limiting the amount of work that we could do. So we had the foresight back then to actually begin using technology to help us improve the work that we do. And it actually increased the volume of the work that the charity reports we were able to complete exponentially. I think I started in 2005 or 2006, and I believe at the time we had about 500 charity reports. So we definitely, and that was after OCR had already been running for a year or two. So we definitely have increased over time the volume of the charities we're able to reach. In several years ago, when the BBB underwent its own rebranding, we also took the opportunity to update the charity report format that we use. And that's where we developed the format you see today with the red, yellow, green symbols, for red for non-disclosure, green for accredited, and yellow for charities that do not meet the standards. And we also tried to make it more understandable, as far as there's a lot that goes into these reports. So the new report format clearly shows all 20 standards and whether or not each individual standard is met, so that donors really get an idea of what it is that we're looking at and what areas the organizations have trouble with. Several years ago, we began assisting BBBs with completing their charity evaluations if they don't have their own charity reporting program of their own. And so this essentially allows any charity in the US that wants to be evaluated to have it done. Because if a BBB is unable to perform the evaluation, we will offer to do it ourselves, or it will be done by another Better Business Bureau. I know Joseel is here today, and her Better Business Bureau does charity review on behalf of several BBBs as well. So there are other BBBs in the system that are sort of helping and doing similar work to we are, helping other BBBs, that maybe don't have the resources or staff to complete evaluation to get that done as well. And then also in more recent, as far as where we are, we recently, of course, had to make adjustments due to COVID-19 and the pandemic. We moved away from physical mail as much as possible, because we understand that most people weren't working in their offices. If they were working, it was remotely. So we moved everything to email that we could. Of course, there's some things that, in order to have proof of delivery, we do send some things by physical mail. But by far and large, we've switched mostly to email at this point. And surprisingly to me, we didn't actually see a drop in participation much during the pandemic. Charities have been just as responsive as they've always been. We haven't seen any increase in charities not meeting the seal over what we normally see. We always have some group are meeting the standards. So we've had some charities that have lost accreditation or fallen out of the seal program because they no longer meet standards, but it's not for anything pandemic related necessarily. We have seen a few circumstances where we have exceptions that we grant because of a temporary. So for example, like a Make-A-Wish that has to shut down because they are not able to make wishes during the pandemic. Obviously, that's going to impact their expenses. So we have certain situations where we are granting exceptions due to COVID activities. You can go to the next slide. And as far as looking towards the future a little bit, I know that's the next meeting, but I just wanted to share a little bit about where we're going with charity review. We're continuing on, completing evaluations as a core focus, even as we develop new projects and new programs. Really, the core of what we do is going to be charity evaluation. We just in the last 2 years moved our charity reporting system out of OCR, the one that I mentioned before, into Microsoft Dynamics 365. The old system was aging, and having something more modern that's maintained by Microsoft is definitely an improvement and sort of future-proofing a little bit of what we do. And then we're making enhancements, we're looking into making enhancements to the charity report format further to integrate potentially, participation in new programs like Give Safely and other things that we'll be talking about later, so that's integrated into the charity reports themselves. And also potentially feature things like video content, interviews that we do with the charities in the reports themselves. And then, of course, continuing to adapt our implementation of the charity standards as new challenges arise. We always have new challenges related to accounting in particular. It seems the new problems arise, such as pharmaceutical valuation has been a hot topic in the past few years. We're looking more at government grant expenses, and then of course, I think we're just sort of beginning to see the COVID impact. I think we're going to continue over the next couple of years to see exactly what the impact of COVID is and how our standards, how the implementation of the standards is going to be impacted by that.
Mhm.
And that's all I've got.
Thank you very much, Sean. Next, we're going to Julie Rizzo, who is Director of Charity Seal Licensing and Fundraising, and she will share information about the Charity Seal program.
Thanks, Shar, for that introduction. So we have, as many of you know, we have the SEAL program, which we started back in 2003 as a way for charities to use the BBB name and logo to let donors know that they meet all 20 standards without having to do any further research. Our organization can use the license, or rather the logo, on their website, in their fundraising appeals, and their promotional materials, and say right up front, yes, we meet all the standards for the charity or the Wise Giving Alliance. All BBB Wise Giving Alliance accredited charities are eligible to participate if they wish. It's not mandatory, obviously, but we do get a good number that participate in the SEAL program. It's something that they really value, and being able to use our name and logo in their various communications. The National Charity Seal license fees run from $1,000 for organizations that make less than $1 million, or make less than $1 million in fundraising revenue, to organizations that make over $500 million in fundraising revenue. They would pay a seal fee of $30,000, and there's a sliding scale that goes in between there. The local charities fees have a smaller scale, so they go as low as $50 to $6,500, and the trend in the past year has been about half the organizations that join our program are local charities. So we have 385 charities currently in the BBB SEAL program. 66% of the eligible charities participate in the Charity SEAL program today. That's including national and local SEAL accredited charities. The SEAL fee brings in about $1.8 million each year. And obviously our goals, as you'll see when I get to the next slide, you'll see that we're going to try to stretch that. The SEAL benefits that we've created are the use of the name and Charity SEAL logo. Obviously, that's the biggest one. That's the one that everybody joins the SEAL program for. The use of our name and logo is as I said, is very valuable to these organizations. The Torch logo and the Wise Giving Alliance name. Building trust videos is also really popular. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to go to our YouTube channel. I'll put it in I'll put the playlist link in the chat, so you can save that and maybe go visit our playlist and see some of the building trust videos that we've done over the years. They're really great 3-minute spots that are great promotional videos for the organization to talk about their mission, their goals, their challenges, and successes. And it's also a nice clip for the Wise Giving Alliance as they're interviewed by Art, and they talk about what it means to their organizations to be accredited, to be a Charity SEAL holder. So definitely try to check that out if you have time. The Charity SEAL logo goes on their report. If you've gone to give.org and looked up a charity, you might see the seal on a certain accredited charities reports, and that means that they are a SEAL holder. The Giving Tuesday Facebook ads are also really popular with our SEAL holders. We do a huge Facebook ad campaign for Giving Tuesday. So it starts the week before Giving Tuesday. It runs that entire week. Each Charity SEAL holder gets their own Facebook ad. So we do 385 of these ads that run for the whole week. They also receive discounts on CFRE accreditation fees. CFRE is the certificate for fundraising executives. And that's not just for their initial fee, but also they get discounts on the renewal fees as well. And of course, they get all the benefits of that all the other accredited charities get, including opportunity to participate in Give Safely, and also in our Advancing Collaboration program. So we have 75. So our 5-year goals is to have 75 up from 66% of eligible accredited charities participating in the SEAL program. Again, that includes national and local SEALs or organizations. Our SEAL fees, our 5-year goal is to have them bring in approximately $2 million each year. I know that doesn't sound like a great increase, but again, the trend in this past year is about half of the organizations that participate in the SEAL program are local charities, and they have their SEAL fees are as little as $50. So although we want to amp up the number of organizations that participate in the Charity SEAL program, it doesn't necessarily add up to they're not all $30,000 SEAL holders, so that can be challenging. And we'll continue to build on the list of benefits for SEAL holders as well. We realize that the other accreditations or badges that they can get from other charity watchdogs are free. So we absolutely have to keep an eye on the value of the SEAL and make it continue to be valuable for SEAL holders. And I think that's the end of my presentation.
Great. Well, thank you, Julie. That was not only a wonderful presentation, but it reminded me how your work is so foundational and so important to all of WGA. So I do want to sincerely say thank you for everything you do. Up next, I'm going to introduce our CEO, Art Taylor. The manager of outreach and digital marketing wasn't able to join us today, so Art is going to step in and talk to us about the Inspiring Collaboration Program.
Great, thank you, Bonnie. And I'll just say quickly that the reason that I'm giving this presentation is that Madhu Debnath, who would have given it, is visiting her family in India. And we are so excited for her to have that opportunity to go to India and visit her family. So I'm more than happy to give this report in her stead. Well, the Advancing Collaboration program actually began with our last strategic plan back in 2016. We decided that there were many opportunities for us and for charities that saw value in collaborating. And so we wanted to share information about collaborating well. And we came up with a methodology, I guess, or some considerations, 9 considerations, which we originally published in the Stanford Social Innovation Review article. 9 considerations. We call that hacking nonprofit collaboration, but we since changed that title to 9 considerations for collaboration. And what we're able to do with charities that are eligible to participate, these would be all charities that have been accredited, allow them to respond to these 9 considerations in writing, and we're able to post an inspiring collaboration card that can then be posted on our website and then shared via social media. And this has been, as Julie mentioned, a great benefit for charities. It encourages them to go through our process. It also helps the public better understand how these organizations go about collaborating. And it encourages organizations, we hope, to collaborate more, because that is a tremendous unused and untapped asset for many charitable organizations. Just quickly, you can look at some of the 9 considerations here. Building trust, having a vision, seeking to assure the success of your collaborators, which is perhaps counterintuitive to some organizations who would think you should try to seek to assure the success of a collaborator. That's not how we do business. But in the charity sector, it should be how we do business, right? Because we can't succeed if our partners don't succeed. Start small, fail fast, and build rigorous feedback loops so we can learn from what we're doing. Do lots of these. Take a portfolio approach to collaborating, and consider non-traditional partners. So some of these 9 considerations are not necessarily intuitive, but we found through these inspiring collaboration cards that we've produced and the interviews that we've conducted with charities that they in fact engage in many of these, and we just wanted to highlight that.
Thank you, Art. Next up is Elvia Castro, who is Manager of Regional Charity Reporting and contributing author to our Wise Giving Alliance Donor Trust Reports. And she will now provide an overview of those reports and her team's current work.
Elvia, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. The greatest information came out of me while I was muted, but now you'll all have to settle for the other stuff I had to say. So, in anyways, I was saying that as our always amazing Sean Vargorder said just a little bit ago, the core of our work has really taken a very methodical, objective approach at charity review and understanding whether a charity deserves the public's trust in their donation. But about 4 to 5 years ago, we also started tracking something that's a little bit different. It's the public perception about charity trust. And what we try to do around this report is look at kind of 3 different areas. One is take a broad macro look at whether the public trust charities in general or maybe specific types of charities. The next one is to take a look at how different demographic looks assess trust. And then a third category is to look at special topics. And so we've looked at things like disaster relief, sexual harassment in the charitable sector, charity impact, and we have things to look forward to in that regard. I should say we've done 7 reports so far, and now we're going into our 8th report. And our goal in doing this has been, in part, honestly, to learn. But of course, the other thing we wanted to do is to kind of support our thought leadership efforts and also to try to get our name out there, to try to create touch points with our charities, but also with the media. I think one of the greatest achievements for us with this report is the relationship that we have managed to kind of solidify with the Chronicle of Philanthropy. We've come to rely on them to kind of create an article every time one of our reports come out, but they also feature us in their newsletters. I think that they've also become more comfortable approaching us about other topics, and I was very pleased when I saw us featured in one of their webinars to their stakeholders without necessarily our involvement, but they're using our data. So that was really exciting for me. But we've also seen support by other organizations, or we've been featured by other organizations. The Not-Profit Times also tends to have an article every time we release a report. We've also been featured in newsletters by Candid and by the Gates Foundation, which was very exciting. And occasionally when the topic that we hone in on is of a more general interest, we'll get other pickup, like you'll see on screen, the Fast Company or Market Insider, and also local news coverage, which I think is very beneficial to our BBB partners. And moving forward, we have a report coming out in a couple of weeks, and it's called Profiles in Charity Trust and Giving. That report is going to talk a little bit about how participation rates are decreasing in our American society, and also try to bring more awareness to how open to solicitation minorities and younger generations are. We're also trying to speak to the categories of charities that have experienced some significant shifts in public trust over the last 5 years, and even just within the year of COVID. So I think it'll be an interesting report. It will be, I think, hopefully interesting for our sector, not of huge general interest, but I do think it's a very good report to release ahead of what we have planned for 2022, which is to start looking at public attitude or donor attitudes around diversity, equity, and inclusion in the charitable sector. So, we're charging ahead. I think it's been a successful project, and so we're really excited to keep working on this stuff.
Great. Well, thank you, Elvia. Wow, I always find the donor trust reports fascinating. Now I have the opportunity the pleasure really, to introduce Ezra Vasquez D'Amico. He is a research analyst and manager of Give Safely, which certainly is one of the most innovative programs, I think, going on these days, and clearly a groundbreaking program. Ezra will present an overview of Give Safely and update us on the latest news in the charitable cryptocurrency sphere.
Right on. So just to give a little background, I started at the organization a little over 6 years ago. And the first year I was doing, just the evaluation work and getting that done. And then the second year, I noticed that Art was kind of very curious, investigating all of our programs, seeing kind of what we could do, what more we could do, and what else we could do to kind of leverage the work that we were already doing. And, had taken a class on blockchain technology at Oxford University during this period, and kind of, I guess, to see what that all was about, but very much along the lines of understanding, where things are now and when they're going in the future, so that we could help ourselves as an organization, but also the sector kind of arrive to the future before it's too late and we're way behind type of thing. So Art brought on our board member, Elizabeth Mung, who's on the call with us, who is a specialist in the blockchain and crypto sector, and tapped me to also work on this. And we launched a platform last year and it's a blockchain-based platform for crypto and cash donations to trusted charities. Only charities who meet our 20 standards are eligible to be on the platform. So the model we developed is very much kind of along those lines, along helping our colleagues in the charitable sector arrive to the future, doing it in a responsible way, but also do it in a way that's leveraging, as Sean and Elvia have talked about, our core, which is our evaluations, that we can label a charity trustworthy. So our overall goal is to connect donors with trusted charities through the platform, and especially the younger and tech-savvy donors, who live in these kind of cryptocurrency spaces. There's the overall narrative in the sector that the number of individual donors are decreasing, and charities are getting more and more focused on the large donors. So part of this is how can we help the charitable sector reach more people and have their voices influencing charity. And then again, also kind of how to reach the younger generations and speak to them in their language, meet them where they are. And we're lucky as an organization where we're trusted by donors, we're trusted by charities, so we can help the charitable sector kind of figure out what is cryptocurrency, what is blockchain. So every week I have meetings with teams from different charities where we kind of go through these questions and how do you accept it? How, why should we do this? Why is it useful? And I tell them, well, it's well over $1 trillion only in Bitcoin. It's over $2 trillion in crypto overall, and it's coming, and we should be on top of it. Our very own Bennett Weiner was at a meeting, at a meeting last week with NASCO, I guess the state regulators for the charitable sector, and general counsel of one of the largest charities in the space said something to the effect of the future of fundraising is crypto, blockchain, and NFTs. And this isn't, a crowd particularly prone to hyperbole, general counsels at charity regulation meetings. So, this is where things may be going, and we want to help the sector get there and help the sector connect with donors in that way. Next slide. So where are we right now? So we've onboarded about I think it's 37 charities to date. And again, we only list charities who meet the 20 standards. Donors can give cash or cryptocurrency. And then we use the blockchain technology that's underneath the whole platform to allow the donors and charities to interact directly with each other. So most giving platforms, the donor gives money, it goes to a central platform, and then it goes to the charity. Because we built ours on blockchain, it goes directly from the donor to the charity, the cryptocurrency donations, all the donor data. So there's no single kind of centralized server that could be hacked. There's no central server where donor information could be mined or misused or in any way, shape, or form. And we couldn't even touch the donations or the donor data, even if we wanted to, based on the way we built it. In addition, we're using the blockchain technology to do some gamification to incentivize donors to share their personal information with the charities. So, beyond the name and email address, which is mandatory, if they choose to share something like, their name, their age, their gender, annual income, they get giving points for sharing each one of these data points. When they have these giving points, they can then redeem these with charities who are also on the platform. So for a conversation with a charity staff member about the mission of their organization, or any sort of experience that the charity can come up with, they're allowed to post those on the rewards page of the platform. There's no cost to the charities to participate. There are no transaction fees that we take. And again, we have no contact with donor data. And the way we see it, again, it's very much a mission play, help donors connect with trusted charities. And it's also, I guess for us, the incentive is to have this platform available to charities who meet the 20 standards, and thus incentivize charities to go through the process to meet the standards, or for those who already meet the standards to keep meeting the standards so that they're still eligible to be on the platform. Next slide. And so where are we going? We want to become the go-to name in trusted crypto and blockchain philanthropy and giving overall. There isn't really anybody else in the space. There are companies who do the kind of the processing, but there's no overall kind of guide for the charitable sector on how to do this responsibly, in a standards-based type approach. As I said, there are 37 national charities listed. Some of the largest charities in the country are on there. And we have many more in the pipeline who have gone through the conversations with us and who are kind of working within their organizations to get to the point where they can be listed. We're taking a very iterative approach to meet the needs of donors, to meet the needs of charities. Again, we're just the meeting place for donors and charities. So we want to make it as useful to them as possible. So one of the things we're doing is, instead of just listing charities, we're going to be listing causes. So each charity will be able to list a cause that they're working on. So for example, we could list something, help us evaluate more charities so that you can give to trustworthy charities. An organization that works with animals in Africa could say, help us fund our zebra outreach program, to make it very tangible. Because perhaps older generations of donors connected with institutions and had that effective connection. Younger donors were finding they care more about causes. I care about climate change. I care about animals. I care about specifically dogs within animals. So we were worried that if they came to the platform and saw all these charity names listed, it would take a little extra work for them to kind of figure out, okay, who are these people and why would I give to them? Whereas if they see causes, they'll say, oh yeah, I care about giraffes. Oh, I care about, responsible giving, and so on. So we're excited about that. And that's just kind of an example of how we're approaching things. We have an NFT auction coming up. We will let you know when it's happening. And this is very much thanks to our board member. And she's also an NFT artist and obviously, Give Safely's main advisor, Elizabeth Mung. She donated a beautiful piece of artwork to us that we'll be auctioning off. And it's worth mentioning, everyone who participated in this meeting today will be sending you an NFT as well. And we'll have a follow-up email with details on how to redeem that. And I'll be able to walk you through kind of live if needed as well. And then finally, as this intermediary between donors and trusted charities, we want to bring resources to them. We're not a technology company, we're not a crypto processing company, we're not an NFT company. So we want to connect them with trusted actors in the space who are doing those things, so that they can take advantage of it and be guided in that way. There's potential for some revenue coming in through referral processes and whatnot. We'll be very transparent with it on our site and everything, again, following our standards. But there's some interesting things happening there. And again, so this is an example of some NFTs that Elizabeth designed, and the one on the left was a prize during the last meeting, the history meeting, that JR won for getting his bingo card filled up. And the second one is the gift for attending last meeting. So there'll be another one. It's very beautiful. It's an owl as well, and it's green. So look out for our email next week on how to redeem those.
Great.
Wow. Ezra, thank you. And last but certainly not least, we will hear from Art Taylor again, our president and CEO and host of the Heart of Giving podcast.
Great, thanks, Shar. So one of the newest products we've introduced is the Heart of Giving podcast. And I have to tell you, it's been a great joy to host this and to have the opportunity to interview some really exciting people who have done and are doing amazing things to give back to society, and through that inspire others to do likewise. The whole objective of the podcast was to inspire generosity and celebrate the transformative effects that giving and service have on the human spirit and on community, and also to teach people techniques and ideas that will improve the impact of their giving and service. As you see here, we've had more than 50 podcasts done so far. We think that they're of a really good quality. Obviously, the guests have been amazing. Subjects have been all over the map related to giving and service. And these podcasts are available on all major podcast platforms. I hope if you haven't subscribed and listened to some of these, I hope you will. We would love to have you join and be regular members and get these podcasts as they come out each week. This is just a partial list of some of the amazing people that we've had as interviewees. People like Judy Belk, Dan Cardinale, who's the CEO of Independent Sector, Sam Cobbs, who's doing great work with Tipping Point, Dan Porterfield, who is the CEO of the Aspen Institute, Hillary Pennington, the #2 person at the Ford Foundation, and Henry Timms, one of the creators of Giving Tuesday. When we were in the middle of the Indian challenge with COVID, we were able to get Ranjani Saigal, who is head of an organization called ECOL, and she told everyone about the great work that they're doing to try to keep the numbers down in rural India. And so we have just been, very fortunate to get some really tremendous guests. So I'll say one last thing by way of introduction. One of our most recent guests is on this podcast today, Karen Osborne. We invited Karen to come and get a preview of our work, and we're really happy that Karen has been able to join. I hope you get a chance to listen to her really inspiring podcast. Karen is a novelist and who has found ways to give back to us through her novels, believe it or not, after having an amazing career as a development officer and managing and founding an international firm that supports nonprofits in various ways. They do some business consulting as well, but mainly nonprofits. So Karen, thanks for joining us. And thanks for being a guest on the podcast. So that's what we have for you by way of getting you to what we currently do. So, Shar, I guess we have some time for Q&A or other comments from people who had to sit still and listen to us talk about all this great work we're doing.
Mm-hmm. That's fine. I assume you'll moderate this
I will.
part. Yeah.
If you have a question, you can just take yourself off mute and blurt it out.
Well, let me add a few words. Great job, everyone, on the presentations. I also want to remind everyone that about our magazine, the Wise Giving Guide, which comes out 3 times a year. And that vehicle is very popular among some of our donors and has been a fundraising vehicle for us in helping to raise money from them. So it includes a summary list of the national charity evaluations we do, as well as an article that's featured on the front. And also Wise Giving Wednesday, our blog, which recently celebrated 350 posts. So that comes out every week on some topic related to charity accountability or something along those lines. And I just wanted to mention those 2 additional things in terms of the current things that we do.
Indeed. So Cass wants to know what percentage of our total income is from the seal. Right now, it's about, I would say, almost 90%, Cass, currently. And part of the reason for that was your foresight. Cass Wheeler was formerly the CEO of the American Heart Association. And when we were developing the SEAL program, Cass was one of several organizations I spoke to about it. And he loved the idea and thought it could be of value to the American Heart Association and other charities. And I said, he asked me, well, how much are you going to charge for it? And I said, well, probably about $3,000 per organization. And he said, oh no, oh no, that is way too low. And encouraged us to increase the price, which we did. And so one of the reasons we were able to generate as much revenue as we had is because of Cass's recommendation. And I'll tell you, Cass was also instrumental in getting us the initial support we needed to get this program off the ground. When we started, we had no other revenue source other than the resources that we got from a few foundations. And we were able to gather some of those foundations together who had all decided that they weren't going to fund us into the future because they were tired of funding us and they wanted to move on to other things. But when we got Cass and a few others together with those foundations in a meeting at the Ford Foundation, Cass and a few others, John Graham, who would go on to become one of our chairs, and John Seffrin, who was also a former member of our board, who was head of the American Cancer Society at the time. The organizations were so important to us because when they asked me, and the foundations asked me the questions of, well, will any charities buy this? I just kind of looked right over at those 3 and they said, of course we'll buy it. And that led to several years of funding from foundations that allowed us to ramp up our SEAL revenue so that we now don't depend to any extent on foundation grants. We're able to manage our organization pretty well without that. That doesn't mean we're not going to go after some. We're to the point now we're ready to start going after them again. But it was that support that we got from Cass and some of the other leaders that enabled this program to take off. So it's not surprising you would ask that question.
Well, Art, thank you for those kind words, but that was not at all why I was asking the question. Part of it was just curiosity, but also the answer doesn't necessarily surprise me, and I'm sure at the at next month's meeting, you'll probably be talking about the plans to diversify the income streams.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any other questions, comments, thoughts?
Art, do you allow questions based on ignorance?
Of course. There's no ignorant question.
Well, you know, I've been out of the foundation world for well over a decade now, and so I don't know how the lay of the land has changed. And obviously, what you and Bennett and everybody have done is you've made Wise Giving Alliance a player. You know, you're more robust. The quality, the intellectual rigor. It's just, you know, it's so incredible. But I don't know how, like, with the other infrastructure, nonprofit infrastructure organizations, Council on Foundations, Independent Sector, Candid, you know, they're all. Is there competition, cooperation, a little bit of both? And maybe you want to save this for another format to discuss it. But I kind of want to know where are we in the lay of the land now?
Yeah, I think there's some cooperation, and it's not obvious to people, but what we do is very different compared to, let's say, a Candid or even a Charity Navigator. You know, we have similar, I guess, objectives, some similar objectives, but our approaches are, you know, radically different. And so in some cases, it makes it difficult to collaborate because you're almost having to give up what your core is all about in order to work too closely with them. But there are opportunities for us to collaborate on the edges. Some things we've done together includes work we did around impact. We did a great collaboration with Independent Sector and at the time, GuideStar on charting impact, 5 questions that charities can use to really assess their impact effectively. We did the Overhead Myth campaign with GuideStar and Charity Navigator, which got a lot of attention and helped donors appreciate the importance of not simply relying on financial ratios to make their giving decisions. I continue to work with many organizations on lots of different things, including BoardSource, on developing a tool that helps charities better assess their fundraising performance. I personally now serve on a committee with the Indiana University and Purdue University and the Giving Foundation people around increasing the overall generosity of people and understanding why we're seeing a decline in the amount of giving. I'm co-chairing a committee with this thing called the Generosity Commission. I have, as you know, served on the board of Independent Sector for lots of years, and most recently was on their public policy committee. So we look for opportunities to work with different groups, either as individuals or as an organization. But sometimes it's hard to get too close to our core because it requires that we may have to move away from what we really believe in, and that is that we have this standards-based charity approach. One last thing I'll point out on collaboration is we've tried to work with a group that formed around getting feedback. They call it, I'll forget the name of it, but it's an organization that's trying to help charities gather feedback from constituencies. And we're part of a multi-organization approach or approach to some foundations to get a grant to encourage charities to better use constituent feedback. So there are different ways we're trying to collaborate. One other thing, going forward, I'll tell you is we're very interested in building communities. And I found that by the podcast was really enlightening, because while I thought the great idea behind the podcast would be getting those stories out, and it is, we've also been able to build, or we're building, a community of former podcast guests. And this has connected us with some really amazing people who might never have had a way to interact with us. I think you're going to see more of that as we build communities around different projects. Ezra has the opportunity to build a great community around blockchain and giving portals. Elvia, through the Donor Trust Report, can get people who are interested in knowing more about that kind of data. We can build communities around collaboration and other projects and products that we have that I think will bring audiences closer to us, make charities more loyal to us, and help donors better understand what needs to happen in the charity space. And I know I'm going to answer Claire's question, which is all about what do we plan to do to stay connected and partner with local Better Business Bureaus. It is so important to us that we have these relationships with regional charity reporting organizations, Claire. And all of the products that we have, we hope that we'll be able to encourage BBBs to use. But more importantly, we want to know from BBBs too, what you're doing that we can help amplify. I think there are opportunities that abound for our abilities and desire to work together. So look forward to continuing to see us find ways to connect and grow our relationships with local BBBs, whether that be we're doing some charity reporting for BBBs when they need that help, giving advice, or if you have particular needs that we can help fulfill, we want to try to do that as well. So there are lots of ways, and our inclination is always to work closely as we can with BBBs.
Thank you.
We have one last minute, so I'll just use it to thank everyone for participating in this second session. And we have one last one coming up, which I hope you'll also join, because we're going to be talking about the future. And leading that discussion will be board member Therese Kong, who is here. Wave, Therese, who is a chief strategy officer for her firm, Harrison and Starr. And we're also going to have our good friend Bob Johansson, who's senior fellow at the Institute for the Future. And the two of them are going to have a discussion about how charity work we do and can bridge to some of the shifts that are going on in society, specifically around directions for our current ideas anyway, for where our brand should lead from here into the future. So I hope that you'll be able to find time to join us. Lindsay, what's the date on that?
That's November 12th, so it's about 3 weeks away.
3 weeks away, great. So I hope you'll all plan to join us and come ready to participate. We love your ideas on what you'll hear from Cass and Therese. So with that, I will conclude this event. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Bonnie and Shar, for your remarks and for moderating this session. Take care, everyone.